Hey, hello everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in for this session. This is probably a topic which is very close to me, and I keep like advocating about it because it's really important in the world of tech that we are in, and especially with the era of social media and everything around what we see around LinkedIn. So I wanted to like invite Edward, who is a founder and career coach in Career Meets World, and he's a friend of mine as well, and he's been really amazing in helping me out with understanding leadership principles and how important it is to be in and around in a good network and what relationship building means. So welcome on the episode, Edward. Very glad to have you here.
Hey, I'm super excited. Thanks for having me.
Great. So let's start with the icebreaker question, which I wanted to hear from you. Like, how would you define the leadership characteristics?
Big question. It's a good one to start with. I think one, before we even think about leadership holistically and the characteristics, I always encourage to think about and recognize that leadership comes in so many different forms, right? There's transformational leaderships, there's growth leadership, there's change leadership. And it's really important to distinguish that there are different buckets and that people fall into different ones. So some people are really good at risk management. Some people are good at inspiration. Some people are good at steady state leadership. But the underlying kind of foundational characteristics that I typically see with some of the most successful, prominent top 1% leaders are really executors. They know how to corral everyone around them and multiply the effects of the team. So that's kind of critical piece number one. A lot of this philosophy comes from Liz Wiseman's book called Multiplier. So I'd highly recommend reading that to a lot of different people. Outside of that, you have to be a great communicator, whether it's verbal, nonverbal, just general writing skills. It's really important that we are able to convey what we think, what we feel in a way that people can really understand. So being a great communicator is imperative. And I think the third one is just being able to be authentic and have humility. A lot of people try to emulate other leaders and they try to be a copycat of somebody else and be a voice that they're not truly, and that doesn't come innate. And that really shows through every single conversation that you have. Your team is going to be able to see right through it. Everyone will be able to see through it. So being extremely authentic is a huge part of leadership as well. So again, just to summarize, being able to multiply the effects of everyone on your team, being a great communicator, and being authentic are really the three big traits that I look for in leaders.
That's great. So one of the things which I think we have also discussed in the past is why is networking such a crucial part of leadership?
Yeah, networking is really something that I take near and dear to my heart, partly because we are only as successful as kind of the relationships that we build around us, right? Oftentimes we hear this common colloquial phrase, which is we are a byproduct of the 5 people we spend the most amount of time with, right? So if you've never heard that, let that sink in. But really what that means is that if you hang out with 5 millionaires in a room, you're most likely going to become the 6th millionaire. So networking is important, and the quality of the people that you surround yourself is really important because you become a byproduct of those people. You absorb and kind of ingest a lot of the information, a lot of the energy that they emanate out into the world. And through osmosis, you start to learn, you start to become similar to them, and you keep up leveling. So not only is networking important for job searching, for leadership development, for identifying new job opportunities or new business opportunities with clients, it's really just important for your overall personal development in order to be able to continuously grow.
That's like literally bang on. And to be honest, like your story and how you have grown into what you have right now, and you've started your own podcast channel with Career Meets World. So things that you have developed, what is that one main takeaway that you can talk about like through your journey, and maybe some of the pointers which you can mention that hey, like it would have been great if I knew this earlier, and some things which you feel could be really helpful to the people who are hearing us.
Yeah, I'll be really raw and transparent with a lot of people, and I don't often even share this, but it's something that has really come to the forefront of my own thinking over the last year. Right, I'll just say I'm in my early 30s. I've had 10 years of experience, ranging from engineering all the way to sales leadership. Most recently at WeWork, and we could delve into any of those stories. But one of the things that I discover that really has helped me continuously grow, continuously evolve, is to go inward and really be in alignment with what I value and what I care about. And I think the last 12, 18 months have really taught a lot of people the importance of being authentic, of being raw and being genuine. I found myself throughout my career oftentimes trying to just fit in and trying to be a part of the broader culture within company X, Y, or Z. And it wasn't necessarily always in alignment with who I really am. And I know for a fact that so many people have gone through this pre-pandemic, during the pandemic, probably at new jobs even right now. And a lot of the clients that I work with experience this, where they're just never in alignment because they're not being honest with themselves. And that's been the hardest lesson I've had to learn over the last 10 years, is because I wasn't honest with myself, I never was truly and genuinely happy with the work that I was doing. And once I figured out what I care about, what I value, what I want to do, how I want to collaborate and network with people, what types of people I want to network with, right? Again, we have to pick and choose who we surround ourselves with. So for me, once I went inward and understood what I value, it became so much easier to step out into the world. When I say the world, I mean the public world of LinkedIn or any other social media platform, and really carry a voice that portrays who I truly am. Right. So I think obviously, as you and I have gotten to know each other, you recognize that I value leadership. I value genuine relationships. And I value talk about giving raw and authentic advice in ways that might not always align with classic corporate culture. Or I love to talk about the evolution of new technologies such as cryptocurrency or blockchain. And again, it might not be mainstream. It might not be what everyone wants to talk about. But I'd rather talk about those things openly and have new conversations, welcome new people into that conversation, than surround myself with people that don't uplift my soul, that don't really align with the values. And if you find yourself going through that right now, I'm happy to have as many conversations as possible with people to really help them break through that. Because if you're not in alignment, you're never really going to enjoy life. And if you're not enjoying life, what are you really doing?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And like tying your story on what your path towards leadership was, I wanted to like really emphasize on this, and even on my post I keep talking about this, that it's very important to have a personal brand which doesn't really tie to your employer, or like for that matter any organization, because your brand is going to be with you forever, and your brand is the right reflection of your skill and abilities. So, what is your thought on like building personal brand, and what could be your tips on how can people do that effectively?
Yeah, it's a really important point as we continue down this pathway into the next decade, right? I think every decade has unique themes, and if you want to be at the forefront of new things coming out in terms of new economies, right? If we look at the 90s, everyone looked at the internet, and that was the birthplace of where so many different dot-com companies started. In the 2000s, we again saw this evolution of both technology and different financial services. In the 2010s, we saw SaaS balloon in so many different directions and on-demand tech services. Well, the next decade is really about the creator economy and this opportunity for individuals to create a personal brand so that they can monetize whatever it is they have to share with the world. I fundamentally believe that not only are we all students for life, but we're also teachers for life. And we all have something to teach. Every single person knows something 10% better than somebody else. So think about whatever it is in your life that you might be good at. I don't care if it's sewing, rowing, talking about crypto, talking about career advice, talking about AI. It fundamentally doesn't matter, but everybody has something to teach, which also implies that everybody has something to learn. So for us, think about what that niche is, what that domain is. From there, you can build out your personal brand. But again, as you and I always talk about, why does it even matter to build out a personal brand? Well, the reality is we saw within 30, 45 days last year, between kind of early March and mid-April, 40 million people lose their jobs. Nobody should ever forget that at any point in time, massive events can happen throughout the world, massive economic shifts. And the truth is, from that, you can lose your job, which means you're one paycheck away, you're one moment away from potentially being out on the street. Again, that's dramatic, but that's actually the reality for a lot of people. The beauty with the personal brand is nobody can take that away from you. You're not going to fire yourself. So investing the time to think about what you're good at, what you can share with people, what you want to talk to people about, and really inspire them, that will give you the foundation of how to build a personal brand. From there, pick a platform, pick a medium. Some people are great writers. Some people love to talk. Some people love to create videos. Some people like to jump on podcasts like myself because I like to interview people. There's so many different mediums to share your knowledge and get it out in the world. Start building a following, and not just a following for the sake of saying, I have 50, 100, a million followers. It's more around build a community of people that you can consistently work with. And in due time, they're going to want to learn from you. And by learning from you, there's an exchange of energy, AKA an exchange of money. And from that, you could start to build your own business. That is the value of building up a personal brand. Pick a niche, teach people, build up a following, build up that community, and start to sell that community. Because at the end of the day, people just want to buy your energy. They would just want to buy your knowledge. And it's so, so important as we think about the creator economy. What's going to happen over the next 10 years as different social media platforms now are enabling creators like you and I to, whether it be on LinkedIn, more importantly, I think TikTok kind of set the trend with incentivizing a lot of creators to monetize their brand. That's going to happen more and more because these platforms are realizing that it's time to actually reward the creators, and they want to attract more people to actually build more personal brands. So I know that's a lot to digest, but it's really, really important to step back and understand that at any point in time, you can lose your job and you have to have something to fall back on. Give yourself permission to create something for yourself that's going to enable you to set yourself up for success in the long term.
That's something which is absolutely true, and to be honest, like I believe the same because whenever you're having passion towards a certain field, that need not be restricted to a certain employer. Like you could be interested in reading research about other companies or organization, and it need not restrict you from learning what you want to learn. So that's something I also feel like I'm very passionate about, like reading from various different sources, may or may not be from my employer, or that it's just very interesting to learn from different perspectives and learn from different area and like different people who are doing it, who are digging into these work. And one of the things which I've heard a lot, Edward, and I sort of disagree, but I don't really have an answer to say that, okay, how could it really be taught? Is the question is that people generally see leadership as something which comes to you since you're born, and it's not something which you can learn. It's not a skill that can be given to you, or like not something that you can learn. But I sort of disagree because I feel that somewhere through my journey in my career, I have learned leadership skills. If you ask me how, I have no clue. Very honestly, I have no clue like how I've learned it, but it sort of came with experience. It sort of came with that risk taking mentality, or like it came with okay, I'm making few errors, let me see how I can fix this, let me see if I can reach out to people and I can create a collaborative environment. And that's how I went about it. So there was no like clear path that I had in my mind to learn leadership skills. But if there is one, like, well, how would you define it? Or like, how would you recommend people to learn leadership skills?
Yeah, it's a great question, and one that I genuinely appreciate, because naturally people are going to gravitate towards, well, in order to learn leadership skills, traditionally people are going to think, oh, I have to go get an MBA. That Some management program is going to teach me how to be a great leader. Well, that's false. That's a complete fallacy. MBAs are going to teach you the fundamentals of business, especially in a theoretical way. And then obviously there's some application, but it doesn't teach you how to actually lead and how to take charge and know how to make adjustments on the fly and how to iterate and how to inspire people. So to your point, you basically were clear on the fact that you don't even know yourself how you develop some of these leadership skills. Well, I always say that it's actually really important to give appreciation to your upbringing and your childhood and really spend a good amount of time understanding what it is you experience, right? Some people play team sports. Some people were encouraged to join some sort of club. Some people had a lot of friends. And the reality is, like, those moments really shape our subconscious. Our subconscious is formed within the first 5 to 7 years of our lives. So 95% of what we actually believe today is formed at an early age. And the reason I bring that up is because if we really think about how our mind works and how we operate and where a lot of our just subconscious thinking comes from and how we show up every single day, it's from an early age. So every single day when we start to react to different things, we're not even actually thinking about what it is we're doing. Most people don't think about how they open a door, right? You turn a doorknob, it just naturally happens. And that's been habituated into our minds. The same goes with different types of skill sets, whether it be leadership or a particular type of critical thinking or communication skills. Those come from an early age. The good thing is that our brains are malleable. So that means that literally anybody can change how they operate, how they show up in the world. And the way to do that is by actually doing the important, what I like to call mental fitness work, and going with it and really understanding what it is your belief system is. A lot of people think they can't become leaders because they simply don't believe they can become leaders. We believe what we become. Buddha had this incredibly powerful understanding in terms of how the mind operates and how human being operates. We become what we believe, we become what we focus on. So if you focus on tying everything we just talked about networking and leadership, if you focus on surrounding yourself with great leaders and you believe you can become a great leader, you will become a great leader. You will start to absorb a lot of those traits, the skill sets, the characteristics, the important tendencies that leaders demonstrate, whether it be charisma, confidence, vulnerability, authenticity, decisiveness, right? Courage, empathy. Those are the critical skills that we can all learn. You just simply have to make a decision that you believe that you can do that. Most people sleepwalk through life and they don't understand that they can actually change what they believe. And when we change what we believe, whether it is you want to be a better networker, you want to be better at machine learning, you want to be better at tennis, I literally don't care what it is. You can become better, but you first have to believe it. And that is really important to understand as it relates to leadership, as it relates to becoming somebody bigger, somebody outside of yourself that you never even imagined becoming. Spend time doing the actual mental fitness work. Then you can start to believe that you can be a great leader. Then you're going to start to take the action that aligns with what it is you actually believe, which is surrounding yourself with great people, learning from great books, from great authors, from philosophers, and kind of blending that all together. And that will become your leadership narrative. And that's so important for you to develop that ultimate leadership narrative. How do you want to be identified as a leader? What kind of leader do you want to be ultimately? And that's how you take those actions. So it's not your traditional recipe, right? Which is go get an MBA. You're going to magically pick up all these leadership skills. It's not the way I recommend doing it. There's plenty of other ways to learn and understand how to rewire your brain so you can start to show up for people and be incredibly assertive in what you say. And then all the opportunities will align for you, whether it is you want to build a business or potentially step into a leadership position at a company.
That's really like an amazing way you have pictured everything together. And while you were talking about some of the points regarding, like, believing in something, there was this book that I had read about the secret of like power, and it spoke about like if you really think and believe that you can do something or you can achieve something, then there's just like a positive aura which starts formulating around you, and your brain realizes that okay, this is a goal which I'm going to target, and that's it. Like I cannot discount on the goal which I'm targeting to, and somehow you'll figure out a way towards it. So what is important is to like have that dedication on focusing on the goal, and your brain will somehow figure out a way towards it. So that's something which I typically follow, because I've like had some goals where at different point in time my friends or like my colleagues would tell me that this is something which is very unrealistic, and do you really think this is achievable in this little span of time? And somehow I would be like, no, you know what, I do not have an option to not have it, but it's just that I need to have it, and then you just move towards it, and things will fall in place. And that's something I've like learned from experience. Also, like when you were speaking about like having empathy and like having that collaborative nature as a leader, one of the things I learned was when I was in a team of data scientists. If you're going to believe that, hey, like I need to work on this project, and like I have to get the most recognition, I need to own this piece. If you have that ownership and siloed mentality, it would somewhere hurt you, because you're only focusing on your growth, and you're not focusing on a more diverse, like from a team perspective, growth. So that's probably one of the greatest trait of being a leader, that you don't focus on individual growth, whereas you focus on communal success. So that's something which I feel that you should be very very much focusing on. That if you find your colleague or a teammate struggling with something, even though it costs you an hour or 2 hour, help them get out of it, and don't do stuff for them, but teach them how to get out of it. So that way you're like growing as a team. So yeah, that's a really great point that you mentioned, Edward. Also, like as a side track, I think you have had interest in cryptocurrencies. So I wanted to have your thought around like how does that fall into the space, and like how does that like really grasp your interest?
Yeah, it's a great question because crypto is something that I've been following and learning about since 2017 at this point. I always like to joke that for me, I kind of fell in love with two things in 2017. One, my wife, who I'm now married to, and then two, cryptocurrency. And she was the one who really introduced me to it and really got me excited about the potential, what it is. I think a lot of times people hear about crypto in the news and there's a bull run, and obviously it gets a lot of attention, and then your classic CNN, MSNBC pickup stories, they write things that are more so clickbait and not really informative and don't help educate people on what the opportunity is with crypto. In the crypto community, oftentimes people say that a lot of people jump in because of the price action. They see Bitcoin skyrocketing, whether it be from $1,000 to $20,000 or from 10,000 to 60. And then they jump in at some point, they get on the roller coaster, and then they see the price fluctuate, but they don't actually invest the time to educate themselves about the technology. So I think step two is really the price action brings you in, and then it's the technology that keeps you in. So for me, I've spent the last, I'd say, 5 years really understanding what is blockchain? How does it actually enable different types of ecosystems to form? What is the opportunity? How is it going to potentially impact and influence a lot of the current systems that we use? How does it improve the systems? What does it actually enable? Why is it better? And I spent a lot of time learning about this. And again, going back to what I said about 10, 15 minutes ago around authenticity and being honest and being aligned with your values, I've spent the last 12, 15 months really working with people through classic career and leadership coaching. And I enjoy it. It's a part of who I am. It's always going to be a centerpiece of who I am. But the truth is, there's a fundamental reason why I now am shifting slightly towards educating and kind of empowering people to understand the fundamentals of crypto and blockchain, because I realized in talking with the crypto community, what we realize is that a lot of people just are kind of mystified by what's going on, and they don't really understand the fundamentals. And it's important for any technology. You have the early onsetters who understand what is happening. They understand that there's a wave, there's a movement that's happening around this technology penetrating our day-to-day lives. It's going to influence how we operate on the internet. It's going to influence how different supply chains work around the world. It's really going to influence, more importantly, the financial system that is fundamentally broken. And it's been proven over the last 15, 18 months by every single government that it just fundamentally doesn't work. So it's going to penetrate all these systems. But the big question and the big differentiator is how. Most people don't understand how. So I want to spend as much time as possible shifting into a conversation around how this is going to happen. I don't know everything, and I'm learning every single day, especially everyone in the crypto community is learning every single day. A lot of developers are constantly coming out with new ideas, kind of pressure testing a lot of new things and putting it out into the world, seeing the value, seeing how it can disrupt things. But more importantly, think about how it can actually make people's lives better and genuinely better without just saying we want to impact and change the world. They're actually doing it. And I think the most important thing to understand is over the last 10 years, whether it be Bitcoin or now there's other cryptocurrencies that obviously have much faster efficiencies in terms of transaction rates, it's made the transfer of money internationally not only faster, but honestly cheaper for a lot of people. And this is a really important thing for a lot of folks to digest, is that because it's more cost effective, it enables different families to support each other across the globe. It enables just financial transactions between even large institutions to be a lot cheaper, which hopefully will inevitably pass that cost down through to the individual consumer, and it will be cheaper for them as well. So that is kind of the base use case, but it's continuously expanded, and I can talk about this at nauseum and at length and hopefully answer more questions for folks. But that's really what got me into it and why I'm making this transition.
That's really cool. And like when you talk about like being so interested in cryptocurrency, it itself shows like your dedication towards it, and how much time you invested in not just like not just investing money onto the cryptocurrency, but learning how things work. And that's probably like one of the things which does make me wonder that not just knowing about like what's the output of things, but also how things actually work is really important for you to be ready to like understand the consequences, because we see the cryptocurrency prices going up and down, and for most of the people it's just that, hey, like, okay, this is a bubble, this is what is happening, probably this is the reason why the prices are fluctuating, etc. But you're getting into the crux of why are things moving the way they are, and that's something very important to be educated about on what you're getting into. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to comment and kind of force people to think about this more in a contrarian way. Oftentimes people say, okay, cryptocurrency is a Ponzi scheme and it's just not going to work because the price is never stable and it fluctuates so much. Well, let me ask you this. We just saw inflation numbers put out yesterday, and they're higher than they've ever been over the last 30 years. I don't hear enough people questioning whether or not the current financial system is a true Ponzi scheme, right? We've been conditioned to
Yeah.
think a certain way. So to your point, I think Ray Dalio talks about this in his concept of first principles. It's really, really important to go deep into any system.
Yeah.
I'm not encouraging you to fully buy into crypto or to fully believe the US dollar or any other monetary system is the right one,
Yeah.
but ask yourself, how does it work? How
Yeah.
do we exchange money? How do certain goods or supply chains work? And what are the inefficiencies? And why am I paying intermediaries so much money? And is there a better way? And when
Yeah.
you start to think that way, especially in the space that you're in with machine learning and AI, that is the root of the thinking that you need to have in order to start creating incredible products and services for people.
Yeah, absolutely. And like just coming back to the point that you mentioned, it just struck me about one of the situations where I encountered like one person came and told me that machine learning and AI is a big bubble. It's fraud, and like it's not real. And I was stunned by like listening to something like this, whereas I was like, like the smallest thing that you use right now, even apps on your cell phone, to having that like doorbell system, or having that Alexa or like Siri or any home automation system that you have, everything is working on machine learning. And when you have all these things right at your disposal, how can you call something uh, like something as a bubble, or like something as a fraud? It's just mere ignorance that people do not understand what's going on, and they just have their own perceptions around how things how things are possible and how they are not. And that's where again, I feel it's really important for people who are in technology to understand what communication and why communication is so important, because you're not going to face technical people all the time in your life. If you're working on a business to business organization or a business to consumer organization, the people on the other end might or might not understand technical stuff as much as you do, or like on the things that you are working on. And that's where it's very important for you to apply your leadership networking skills, for you to understand the storytelling principles, to make it more comprehensive for them and making them understand of on how things are actually functioning. So yeah, that's absolutely right, what you just like pointed out. And just like before wrapping up, I wanted like to probably have your insights into where do we for the people who are starting off in their LinkedIn, like how do they build their network? What could be the first icebreaker thing that they can start with, and how does that first step look like if you want to build your network?
So are you asking specifically if they want to build their network or they want to build their following?
Building your network, of course.
So with building your network, I think it's really important to ask yourself before you start messaging people or connecting with people is understand what is the market that interests you, right? Like what industry do you want to go after? What are the verticals? From there, maybe identify the top 5, 10 companies that really excite you and you want to connect with people at those organizations, right? So start from high level, go from the airplane vantage point and understand what areas, like you don't want to travel to every single country. Maybe somebody does, but there's certain pockets of the world you want to go to first. So think about the companies that interest you within those verticals, right? Where, again, you don't want to go to every single city in every single country. You want to go to the major cities or some prominent towns. Same thing here. Pick the top companies, pick the top organizations, identify the key people within those companies, and then from there, start to intentionally reach out to them. And I think oftentimes people get nervous about reaching out to individuals, but I think everyone has heard some semblance of Wayne Gretzky's famous quote, which is you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Yeah.
So I think
Yeah.
it's really important to understand that even once you identify a lot of those people that you want to connect with, they might not respond, and that's okay. But again, have courtesy throughout all of it. Send them polite messages, give them a few days to respond, anywhere from 3, 5, 7 days. A lot of things are going on during the pandemic, and we don't know the ins and outs of everyone's lives. So be patient with the responsiveness. Compliment people. If you see that individual posting something that's incredibly valuable, use that as an anchor point, right? Find an article about them, find them on a podcast, say, hey, I heard you on podcast with this person. I really found this interesting. I simply want to say thank you for sharing this information. Then maybe a week, 2 later, reach out to them and say, hey, I saw a job opportunity at your company. I'd love to just learn more about the culture there. Are you open to having a conversation? They might say yes. They might say no. I can't guarantee either of that, but that's how I built so many relationships throughout my life, is having some mutual point that you can connect on and really ground the conversation. Because at the end of the day, if you really think about it, you're reaching out to a random human being. I think technology has made it incredibly easy to ping anyone.
Yeah.
Heck, you and I met through LinkedIn, and that's exactly how that conversation started.
Absolutely, yeah.
So remember, you can reach anyone. It doesn't mean you're going to reach everyone. There's plenty of people I've messaged and I'm still waiting on responses. That's okay. It doesn't faze me. And that's the beauty of trying to connect with 100 people. Maybe you'll connect with 50 ultimately and start to expand your network. And then it's going to grow.
Yeah.
And the other point that I love making with people is once you actually connect with somebody, one of the final questions you should always ask them is, could you possibly recommend 2 or 3 other people that you think would be valuable for me to connect with? And would you be open to making an introduction to them?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how you expand your network rapidly, and you don't always even need LinkedIn to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. One of our first friendships, that's probably how we got into it, right? Like just meeting somebody, talking about like, mutual things, and that's how it grows. And just adding to your point, like I feel when you're connecting with people, another major point to build these relationships is to be consistent and be like very valuable to each other, and not just like ghost each other in a while, but you constantly are in touch, like ask them how they are, how their week has been, like if you want to really connect on something, if it's been a few weeks that you've not been connected, so you can just like have a follow-up call, maybe go on a like go to grab some coffee if they are in the same city, etc. Yeah, those are probably some of the things I do, and I've gotten like one of the best like connections to this like really amazing mentors and people from whom I can learn a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, again, once we go back to some semblance of normal, the networking world changes a lot. Not only are you trying to jump on Zoom calls and connect, but try to grab coffee with people, try to invite those individuals to social networking events that you have, or vice versa. Again, the goal is to expand your network. Be mindful of the quality of the people that you're surrounding yourself with. Don't just go to a networking event to say that you went to a networking event.
Yeah,
Invest time in the right places, and you're going to start to surround yourself with incredibly smart, prominent people, and you will become a much better individual yourself because you're going to learn so much.
yeah, absolutely. That's absolutely agree with that. So yeah, I think it was great chatting with you, Edward, and I'll leave the forum as is. So if people are going to be putting out any questions, I can come back to it and like I'll ping you those questions.
Absolutely.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a good one.